When we have a leading coefficient greater than 1, we're going to use a method called factoring by grouping. So to factor by grouping, the first thing we're going to do is multiply the first and the last term. And when I do that, I get 30. So what I'm going to do is find factors of 30. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. So just like I did before, they need to add to give me 17. So those two add to give me 17. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this middle term as plus 15x and plus 2x and bring the outside terms down. So here's factoring by grouping. I'm going to group these two and I'm going to group those two. So I'm going to look at these two first. I'm going to factor out the GCF, which is 3x. So I'm going to divide 3x out of both terms. When I do that, I'm left with an x plus 5. So this is still one whole term, but I just factored it. On this term right here, I'm going to factor out the GCF and it's going to be a positive 2. So I'm going to divide out a positive 2. And when I do that, I'm left with an x plus 5. This is still one whole term. So now I went from 4 terms to 2 terms. So my next question is, what do I have in common? So in common, I have an x plus 5. When I divide the x plus 5 out, I'm left with a 3x and a plus 2. And there's my final answer. Order does not matter. The 5x or the x plus 5 can come at the end. Let's try this one more time. I'm going to multiply 2 and 4. And when I do that, I get a negative 8. So I need factors of 8. 1 and 8, 2 and 4. That subtract to give me 7. So these subtract to give me 7. And if I need it to be a negative 7, there's my factors. So I'm going to replace this middle term with a positive 1x and a minus 8x, and I'm going to bring everything else down. Factor by grouping. So we're going to group the first two and the second two. In the first one, I have an x in common. So when I divide out an x, I'm left with 2x plus 1. The second term has a negative, so I'm going to factor out a negative and a 4. So divide out a negative 4 in both. And when I do that, I'm left with a 2x plus 1, which is perfect. In common, I have a 2x plus 1. So I'm going to divide out 2x plus 1 and 2x plus 1. When I do that, I'm left with an x and a minus 4. So there's my final answer.